Hey, so I've just listened to a song, One Nation, One Britain. And this is a song that was made by a campaign group of the same name. Campaign group, I guess that would be the right title to give them. Um, or initiative, maybe, is a better title. Um, Firstly, about the song, if you've had a chance to hear it, my own take is it's children singing, and it's a bit cringy. I mean, the lyrics, some of them are a little bit, I don't want to say cult-like, but I understand the criticism of that. But I also think it's unfortunate that people, primarily on the left and Scottish nationalists, have reacted in such a hysterical way. So, it's basically worth looking at what the background to this is. And if you listen to the lyrics, to say they're a bit off, they're a bit cringy, but, people have described this as a proto-fascist movement. Now, that's insane, because if you listen to the lyrics and you look at the website, this is not some sort of white supremacist movement or other ethno-supremacist movement. It's very diverse. The founder is a man by the name of Kash Singh. He's the chief executive. I'm just reading out from the website here. Is the chief executive and founder of One Britain, One Nation. As chair and founder of the British Indian Association, he was responsible for bringing together thousands of people from diverse backgrounds. In his professional capacity, he was a senior police officer in the rank of inspector with the West Yorkshire Police. In over 2 decades of police service, he has gained much experience in working with people from all backgrounds. In 2006, he was nominated to lead the most challenging and sensitive area of Manningham in Bradford. In 1995 and 2001, its area saw riots which were described as the worst disorder ever witnessed in mainland Britain. Um, Ostensibly, that's before the 2011 England riots, but regardless, that's his background. Now, if you look at the website, I don't know why anyone can rationally try to describe this as some sort of far right source. It's patriotic and unashamedly so. But there's something very rotten in this country when people conflate patriotism with nationalism. It's not the same thing at all. And whilst I think the song, I can understand the criticism of it. I think it could have been constructed a bit better in terms of, the chant at the end. Like, I think it was "One Nation, Strong Britain, Strong Britain." It's a bit un-British in the sense that we just don't do that. You know, um, some have compared it to North Korea or old communist marching songs, and it is a little bit like that. It's hard to escape the connotations. Nevertheless, I think that critics would do well to actually look at the website rather than just dismissing this as a far right thing. Um, in fact, that kind of angers me because it shows the narrowness of their thinking. And get a smug individual like James O'Brien on LBC just pouring scorn on it. What's wrong with the principle? What's wrong with the principle of uniting our four nations and, uniting all the races in Britain? We're all British. Is that not a good thing? Is that not a rebuke to racists? But I have to say it's pretty ironic for Scottish nationalists to be jumping on this and talking about tolerance. Um, I find a lot of Scottish nationalists, not all of them, but a lot of them to be pretty intolerant people and not above thuggery, not above intimidating anyone who disagrees with them. Thor Alba and other such Scottish nationalist groups, they show their true colours time and time again. They don't respect democracy. Scottish nationalists do not respect democracy. I mean, this is one thing that really, really irks me off. They talk about the EU referendum and the Scottish people being ignored, but the Scottish nationalists, including their polite face Nicola Sturgeon, have had absolutely no respect for the results of the 2014 referendum. Now, it is an empirical, undeniable fact, and if you don't believe me, look up the figures. that more Scots voted to stay in the United Kingdom in 2014 than Scots who voted to stay in the EU in 2016. So to say that the Nationalists have a democratic mandate is complete BS. Um, Sturgeon had a very over the top reaction to Michael Gove's statement that Boris Johnson shouldn't issue a referendum. She called it patronising. Um, but the Nationalists care only about one thing, which is breaking up the United Kingdom. And I wouldn't put it past them to use this pandemic as an excuse to try and further a divide between England and Scotland. But I don't understand why British patriotism is unfairly given these negative connotations, yet Scottish nationalism, why is that form of nationalism okay? Because there's a real contradiction here. Leftists will often say nationalism is a bad thing. It equates to racism, it equates to intolerance. And I actually agree with that. But be consistent. If nationalism is a bad thing, then don't condemn what you see as British nationalism, although I think there's a difference between patriotism and nationalism. But anyway, that's how they see it. Versus Scottish nationalism. Why is Scottish nationalism okay? Um, that's strange to me. I don't understand why one form of flag waving is bad and sinister and pandering to the far right as they see it, and another form of flag waving is somehow progressive. Um, so for me, having looked at this website and having looked a bit into this, I think it's a good initiative. I really don't see any problem with having something that makes people consider patriotism and consider what unites us rather than divides us. I think it's just unfortunate that the song was a bit, it was a bit cringy. It could have been better. It could have been less, perhaps sounding like, something you might hear in Maoist China. Unfortunately, that kind of opened up ridicule and scorn. And I think there were good intentions, but I think it could have been done better. Um, but I'll put a link to the website. I think it's a good initiative. In fact, I think it's about time this country, the United Kingdom, had a national day. Why the hell not? Every other country does. In fact, it's the 4th of July. No, that's the United States. There's Bastille Day in France. It's Canada Day in Canada, which of course this year has a bit of a dark cloud over it because of recent events. But it really, really irritates me how some on the left, and I emphasize some, I'm not generalizing here, always associate patriotism with the far right. I'm sick and tired of them giving the far right ownership of this. Um, I mean, surely the best way to rebuke, blood and soil nationalists and those who would push a racist agenda is to be inclusive. Now, the nationalists want to break this country up, and they're using the EU referendum as an excuse to do so. But to me, it's crazy to break up a 300-plus-year-old union in order to stay in a 47-year-old union. And I voted Remain, you know. I think it's too early to really, really know if Brexit is successful or not. Here in Sunderland, I didn't make a video about this, but there's a big news about Nissan, which is going to expand, and we're going to have the UK's first gigawatts. I forget the exact terminology now, but job creation is always a good thing. I've seen some Europhiles trying to put a dampener on it, saying that, well, the government's paying for a big part of it. But job creation is job creation. I think it's welcome. So as a Sunderland resident, I welcome it. We now have the biggest car plant in the UK, and what? Why be so negative? Just welcome good news where there is good news. Um, The only thing I would say is we need to be a bit wary of Chinese involvement. But other than that, it's job creation. It's a good thing, especially in the Northeast. Um, anyway, I'll leave it there. But this issue of patriotism and this issue of particularly inclusive patriotism. I do not know why the left keep pouring scorn on it. You know, I mean, there's certain people on the left who seem to be more bothered by our national flag than they are by certain Islamist activity, for example, and intolerance is going on in our society. The hypocrisy and the selective outrage. I mean, if you're bothered by this song, which, like I say, I personally, do find it a little bit cringy, but it's a selective outrage. They're bothered by this song, but they don't care about critical race theory being pushed into schools to try and divide children based on ethnic lines. They don't care about the University of Sheffield paying students to monitor each other for microaggressions. Sheer hypocrisy. And I think they really do see any sort of notion of patriotism, whether it be the last night of the proms or frankly, any sort of national pride whatsoever, that they automatically get jittery about it. Oh wait, no, we can't show the flag; it's racist. Well, my point would be let's reclaim the flag from racists. I don't care if you are white, black, Asian. I don't care if you are a Christian, if you're atheist, agnostic, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, gay, straight, whatever. Um, but we live in one of the greatest countries on earth. I believe that. And not just in a sort of defensive, jingoistic way. I genuinely believe we do because of the opportunities we have, because of the richness of our culture, um, because of a lot of other factors that are just too many to go into in this video. There's a lot of things I love about this country. There's things I don't love about this country. And just to be clear here, on the issue of patriotism, I'm not suggesting that people need to prove they're a patriot by flying the flag. That's why, for example, I don't think that there should be a forced conformity in that sense. I don't think, for example, and not just about the flag, for example, I don't think people should be forced to wear the poppy, right? But I am so tired of a certain segment of the left um, constantly disparaging any notion of patriotism. All they have to do, all they have is ridicule and mocking and negativity. And that might be justified if this really was pandering to the far right, but it's not. And they say it's all about Boris Johnson and his ego, and they're trying to tie this to Johnson as an individual. There's not personality cult. I mean, Johnson is relatively popular as prime ministers go, right? He's seen as a larger than life character, is eccentric. Um, but again, people who think that there's a personality cult around Boris Johnson to the sort of extent that you see in totalitarian states, they don't understand totalitarian states. We as British citizens can freely criticise the Prime Minister, and he regularly is criticised and ridiculed. Can these critics say, oh, we're not allowed to criticise Boris Johnson? No, they can't, because that is not the situation. I mean, I am critical of the way Johnson is quite flippant about serious issues. I think that is tactless, and it's one aspect of his approach I don't like. And he's a conservative. I'm not. I'm a centrist. I've never voted conservative in my life. In a general election, that is. I did vote for. Actually, no, I didn't. I was going to say I voted for the Tory in the police commissioner election. I actually didn't. I voted for an independent guy. That's beside the point. I'm just so tired of the very sense of patriotism being mocked and shunned and ridiculed because there's this knee jerk reaction with the left that it must be a bad thing. It's bad if it morphs into a kind of exclusive nationalism, like a blood and soil nationalism, or if it morphs into a totalitarianism, like you must wave the flag or something like that. But healthy patriotism is just that. It's inclusive and it's actually, I believe, healthy because if people have a sense of inclusiveness and a collective purpose and a homeland, a collective sense of national identity, it's actually, I think it's healthy. I mean, Theresa May got criticized for saying if you have no, I think the term she used was if you have no country, you're, I forget the exact term she used, but she got criticized for that. Looking back now, I think I know what she meant. Well, the way she said it was if you're a citizen of the world, you're a citizen of nowhere. Probably came off badly, but I sort of know what she was driving at now because national identity and this sense of belonging to and identity with, if you, this is what I almost feel sorry for Scottish nationalists. They wake up in a country, a state, the United Kingdom, that they despise. I mean, that must leave someone feeling very embittered. So I almost feel sorry for them because, they hate the British passport. They hate the fact that they're part of the United Kingdom. And they just wish that we would break up and we'd shatter. It isn't going to happen, but I almost feel sorry for them. Almost. Anyway, I'll leave this here. In conclusion, I would simply ask people to look at this website. I'm not asking you to support them or anything like that, but at least be open minded enough to have a look at it. And you'll find it isn't some sort of far right source, it isn't some sort of cover for Johnson worship. In fact, there's nothing in the website about, the Prime Minister in terms of, at least not in the opening segment. Now, if it was a Boris Johnson personality cult, you would think he would be plastered all over it, but he's not. So I think there's a bit of a hysterical reaction from certain quarters to this. And I, for one, think the initiative is a good one.